Welcome to Neuro-Spectrum Conversations, a podcast where real people share real experiences surrounding autism, neurodivergence, and everything in between. I'm your host, Alyssa, and my goal is to create honest conversations that help people feel seen, understood, and less alone. Thank you for being here, and let's get into today's episode. And today I have my co-host with me, Arkie, and we'll be talking about elopement in autistic children. Do you want to take it away and kind of talk about elopement?
Yeah. One of the biggest concerns we have is elopement, especially when we go out in public, of course, when we're at any park, especially with water.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first place he wants to go. Parking lots, that's the scary one right there. We got to just keep an eye on him constantly. And we try not to be the parents with the kid with the leash, but that would come in handy. So many times it would come in handy.
Yeah.
The only type of comfort we get when we go to the store sometimes is when he's in a cart.
Mm-hmm.
That is where he can't really get out of that for now.
Right. Yeah.
So it is our biggest concern about that. I couldn't imagine having a kid that's like level 3 with elopement. Well, then, man, they're going to be fighting the whole way.
Yeah. So I did want to kind of preface that this episode may be a bit triggering for some people, especially if your child has eloped before or you had a very scary experience with elopement from your child. So I did want to preface that for this episode. And this episode is kind of heavy, I would say. This topic is very, close to my heart because our son has done this several times.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, he was never, of course, he was in a dangerous situation, but he never got hurt. So I'm very grateful and thankful, and we were able to catch him in time. But this can be triggering to some people, so I did want to make sure to preface that. And then also, I wanted to have a definition to associate with elopement for everyone who does not know what that means. So it's when a child or individual with autism runs or wanders away from a safe environment or caregiver. And this is a common and dangerous behavior among autistic individuals. And this has affected nearly half of all autistic kids. So that's a very sobering, definition. And just talking about this makes me nervous and anxious, and thinking about the experiences that we have had with our son. He has wandered off in a parking lot before. He's almost been hit by a car. And, it's terrifying because it could happen literally in a second.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've had some times where he was with you and he eloped with you. So do you want to talk about your experience with that?
One time at work, he just started walking one direction, right toward a busy highway. Followed in behind him the whole way. He never even looked back to see if I was back there at all. He had no care in the world about, he was going that far at all. Like if I wasn't there, he would just walk right into traffic. He wouldn't have cared at all. And that right there is scary because, that's just anything could happen.
And sometimes it's also called wandering or bolting. It really depends on the situation. And his is more of a wandering thing most of the time. He doesn't respond to his name. So, you could chase him calling his name. He will not turn back and see if you're there. He just keeps going. So he does that quite often in parks that are not fenced in. And that's very frustrating for us as parents because we take him to the park for him to play, right? And he just doesn't. He would rather wander around and wander. Yeah, you have to constantly be hypervigilant and My eyes are always everywhere. I watch everything. I see everything. And in an inkling of a feeling I have of him bolting, I will go over to him.
That's why you see a lot of autistic parents. They're not sitting down.
Right.
They're always they're either, and sometimes you won't see if you have a couple. They'll have one person on one side of the room and then the other side of the room just to do run interception on it.
We monitor all exits and any points of entry towards dangerous situations. Always. Any environment we're in, I don't care if we're in a house, if we're at the store, if we're in the park, wherever we take him, we are always looking.
And this can't be confused with what we hear a lot is, parents with the neurotypical kids, like they went through the same thing. It's not like that at all. I mean, with that, they can use things to get them to come back. Like in our situation, there's nothing we could say that's going to make him come back to us at all. There's nothing we can do. You could like with a neurotypical kid, you could say, oh, if you don't do that, you're going to ground it, or you're not going to want this, you're not going to have favorite snack. He does not care about any of it.
Right. Yeah. That's a very, it irritates me if I'm being completely honest. I know sometimes people approach that by saying, oh, my kid does that too. My little kid does that too. I'm like, yeah, your kid does do that. And yes, it is scary, but your kid will typically respond to you unless they just don't listen at all.
I don't know if that's coming from like they're trying to sympathize a bit. They don't know how it's coming off or what.
Yeah, that's just how I perceived it because I've had several people tell me that. And I'm like, I'm sorry that's your experience. I mean, I know that that's hard, but it's completely and totally different. And if you're not a parent of an autistic child, you do not understand. And I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but it's the truth. Because you, or at least your kid knows, hey, I'm supposed to stay inside the house. I can't leave without mom or dad or whatever caregiver. He will get out of the house and he'll just leave. He wanders. He will go halfway across, and we live right next to train tracks. And that is terrifying because they're constantly trains going through here and other things. We live close to some cornfields. So, there's big tractors out and around. So even though we live in the middle of nowhere, it's still dangerous. We also live very close to a creek. And that is terrifying.
Any body of water.
Any body of water. It doesn't matter if it's a kiddie pool or a puddle. It does not matter. Any kind of water. He is attracted to it. It's a sensory experience for him. And that's where he typically goes first. So that is another very scary thing because your neurotypical kid knows to stay in the house. Ours doesn't.
And the risk taking with the neurotypical kid, they kind of contemplate that a little bit more, like, what this will happen, what this will cause. But with him, it's just, he just wants to do it.
Yeah. And I mean, we can't ask him why because he's nonverbal and he can't talk. So what am I supposed to do? And then I see all these terrible stories about these kids that have eloped and have tragically lost their lives. And oh my gosh, these people in the comments, oh my gosh, it literally makes my stomach hurt. I try to avoid that, but when the news posts about it, I see it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that poor child, that poor family. And these people are saying, oh, you're terrible parents. Why weren't you watching them? Why don't you have locks on your doors? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what is wrong with you? They just lost their child. What is wrong with you? And human decency has just gone out the window completely. What happened to being kind when someone is hurting?
Right.
I just, it still baffles me. I try to avoid that as much as possible, but it's the news posts about it, and there's so many instances of drownings in autistic children. And that makes me a little emotional thinking about it. Because my son has done that. Obviously, he hasn't had a near death experience, but I can't explain the feeling in the pit of your stomach when your child runs away and you're like, oh my gosh, what if I'm not fast enough?
Right.
Do parents of neurotypical children think that way?
I don't really think they do. I think you got to have some type of neurodiversity to actually understand that, you know, it's so hard to explain. It really is.
Yeah.
You know?
I always worry, like, what if I'm not fast enough? What if something happens? What if someone grabs him really quickly and gets away with him and I'm not fast enough to catch him?
Oh,
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. It's a very what's it called? I lost my train of thought. Helpless feeling. It's a very helpless feeling, knowing that something in an instant could change your life forever.
yeah, that's why you got to go through every scenario. You have to make a out.
Yeah. And we're always thinking 12 steps ahead. It doesn't matter what we're doing. If we're just going out to go to the mailbox, I'm thinking 12 steps ahead because I have to, you know, and even taking him outside to play, I'm thinking 12 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Because you turn your back for a second, he'll leave.
Yeah.
If he knows that he can't see you, he'll leave.
Right.
He'll just wander. He'll just go and do whatever he wants.
And
he's not doing that. I know a lot of other neurotypical people say, oh, that's a bad behavior. Your kid is just doing that to manipulate you. What?
Oh, yeah. Again, it comes from a parent that just doesn't know. I mean, like before we had Apollo, we knew some about it. I know you did. But we didn't know it in depth enough
Right.
to everything every day, how it is. And thinking about back then, how we thought of that, because we didn't even know this was, what our future was. Sad. Now, I mean, it's still kind of hard to understand why they don't get it, but I do get that they actually have no bearing, no real understanding at all. I explain it till I'm blue in the face, and there's no way for them to actually know. They'll only apply it to what they know, and that's their neurotypical kid.
Yeah. And a lot of it is misinformation and fear mongering and ignorance. Yeah. And I stand firm on that. And I hate that the world is the way that it is right now towards that, because we could save so many lives through prevention and safety and trainings and, just being a kind person. It doesn't take much. It's not that hard. I mean, I don't see why that's difficult for some people to grasp, but it is what it is. And I just want to say again, it is not a manipulative behavior. He is not doing this on purpose. He is not doing this maliciously, and he's not doing this to hurt us. That's not a thing.
Right. So,
why would you say that? Just like with the comments being very insensitive, if a family has lost their child, that was their baby.
Yeah, and they go immediately to like anger.
Yeah. And
that's
hearing those things and reading those things that those people are saying, how do you think that makes them feel?
Yeah.
I can't even, I could go on and on about that. That's why this is very near and dear to my heart. And I am such a big advocate for elopement and safety prevention. And I talk about, how much do I talk about it?
All the time.
I talk about it literally all the time. It is one of my, I wouldn't say passion, but I'm very passionate about elopement and safety prevention because I've lived it. It's scary. And I know other parents are going through that too with their kids. And not every autistic person elopes or wanders or bolts, but most autistic individuals elope and wander. And I did write down some statistics. These are all from the National Autism Association. I will also have a link to their website on the description of this episode. So if you want to read about it and you're interested in learning more about safety prevention, please, 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 please check out the website. It has a lot of great current information. And they also offer, what was it called? The big red safety box. And you can apply for that and get it for free through their website. And it took about 2 weeks to get to us. Yeah. And I'll also include a link for that as well. But like a list of things it includes, it has a Be Ready booklet, and it includes a ton of great information like a caregiver checklist, a family wandering emergency plan, a first responder profile form, wandering prevention brochure, a sample IEP letter, a student profile form, emotion identification cards, and wandering quick tips. And then also in the box, you'll get 2 GE wireless door and window alarms with the batteries included, which is nice. So you can just pop the batteries in and you're ready to go. 1 road ID bracelet or shoe ID tag. So with that, it will come with a form that you fill out and you send it to them and they will get that made for you for free. So that is a wonderful resource to have. It also comes with 4 adhesive stop sign visual prompts that you can hang on doors and windows, 1 safety alert window cling for car or home windows, and then 1 child ID kit from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And all of this is for free. It is a wonderful resource to have. It's very informative, and more people should be aware that it exists because I didn't know that. I didn't know that until recently. We got ours last year.
It was last year.
Or maybe the year before that. Someone told me about it and I had no idea. I was like, I'm getting one immediately. All you do is fill out some basic information and they send it to you. No strings attached. We also did fill out the ID bracelet and they sent us one for free, which he still uses, which has been very, very helpful for us. But there are also some other statistics that are on there that have been quoted from that website. So some of these are kind of hard for me, at least. I'm sure they're hard to listen to for you, but I feel like if you hear the statistics, then, you will feel the impact that we feel, maybe just a slight bit of the impact that we feel. But still, it's important to talk about it because this is very real and it happens every day. Right? About 49% of autistic children attempt to elope or wander from a safe environment at least once after age 4. Autistic children are approximately 4 times more likely to wander than their non-autistic siblings. Around 1 in 4 autistic children who wander go missing long enough to cause serious concern. In one major study, 65% of autistic children who eloped were at risk of traffic injury during the incident. About 24% of autistic children who wandered were in immediate danger of drowning. I hate this one. Drowning is one of the leading causes of death related to autistic wandering and elopement. A National Autism Association study found accidental drowning accounted for 71% of wandering related deaths in autistic kids.
That is why I wish that they would look at the water first.
Right.
I don't know why they don't. They don't.
I think immediate concern is, oh my gosh, what if they get in the highway?
I know. I just wish they
That's
would,
what they're,
start there and kind of like walk through it.
yeah.
I don't know how it works. So
I don't either, because we never had to be in that situation where we've had to call in for search and rescue or for police intervention, but I know a lot of families have. So I would always highly, highly, highly encourage you, look at the water first. Look in pools, if there are any pools near you, creeks, rivers, lakes, ocean.
feel like they're too far away. I mean, like still,
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah. Nearly 1/3 of autistic children who wander are unable to communicate important identifying information. Around 40% of parents of autistic children report sleep disruption because they're afraid their child may wander or leave the home. So like I mentioned, we are constantly living in a state of hypervigilance. And the fear of the public judgment when like the news posts about it makes families very hesitant sometimes to take their kids out.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
I do not feel like parents should be afraid to take their kids out. And then, if they wander off or elope, how they're perceived and how people stare. It's
I know. They don't help. They just stare.
right. And that's not helpful. If I could give another piece of advice, that's not helpful. Be willing to help in any way that you can. Be willing to search for the child, volunteer to help out with the family if they need help, volunteer your time to go and look for them if they are not found close by. I have seen a couple of kids. There was one recently, I can't remember where it was, but he was up on top of a building and a bystander got up there and got him down.
That's good.
And
you don't get a lot of that.
right. And they were calling for him to come down and he just wasn't listening. He was stimming and he was
that was on Disney.
I think it
was on the
it was at an amusement park.
Yeah. He was on the what are they is it? It's like little carriages that came from the
Yeah. I can't remember what it was. I know it was some kind of a park though, or an amusement park, but this guy, I watched the video, he went up there and got him down. Everyone was shouting for him to come down and he was just, hanging out in his own little world. He was stimming, he was happy, and he probably didn't even realize he was in a dangerous situation. But I'm very grateful that that person was kind enough and brave enough, because I'm terrified of heights, but if I saw that, my butt would be up there getting that baby down. I would do it.
Who else is going to get up there,
Right, exactly. No hesitation. I would do it immediately. I don't care if it's my child or if it's some random person's child. If your baby's up there, I'm going to get him down.
That's the stuff you want to hear,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just baffling to me sometimes. I also have on here, ways or it's hard to pinpoint why people or autistic people elope, but most of the time it's either sensory seeking or sensory avoidant. So sensory seeking, they are seeking out that sensory input, whatever that may be. It may be, if they run away, they like feeling the wind on their face, or they see something that they want to touch, like water. Sensory avoidance. Oh, you're wanting me to do something that I don't want to do. So I'm feeling very overwhelmed. I'm going to wander or bolt. Most of the time that would be bolting, or escaping overwhelming environments, and if their system is not regulated enough and they are feeling that dysregulation and it's getting close to the meltdown point, I know for our son, especially if we're transitioning to a different activity, that's where we see the most pushback and the most behaviors of him wanting to leave, you know, and he can't convey that to us because he can't communicate with us. So I know for us specifically, that's one of the things for Apollo. Sometimes it's chasing special interests. Like if they see something cool that's not close to them, they're like, oh, I'm just going to go, mosey on over, check that out. And they don't realize that they're in a dangerous situation or crossing a busy highway. And, they don't.
Tunnel vision of just
right. Yeah. And then, with them being nonverbal, it's harder because, they can't tell us why they're leaving or why they feel like they need to leave.
And if somebody does find him, how are they going to figure out who he belongs to?
If he didn't have identifying markers, how are people going to know, unless they just go to the police station and be like, hey, we found this kid wandering around and, we don't know, he can't talk. That's a scary thing.
Yeah. I mean, like if you would leave, even if he was found, like it goes through my mind quite a bit that how would an officer, somebody from search and rescue, be able to get him to them?
Yeah.
He just isn't, he's gonna be back offish from them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it terrifies me running up through my head that some stranger is going to try to get,
Yeah. Yeah. Because we're in a day and age where people take advantage of children who are nonverbal.
Another thing about that is the stickers.
Yes.
Yeah. Those, which you said before, a lot of people use those as identifiers for targets. Yeah. They see it as an easy target.
This is from law enforcement professionals. This is not just something I came up with. If you have a child safety first responder, my kid is autistic, identifying sticker on your window, as a bumper sticker on the back of your car. I know those are very popular, but it does tell potential people who would want to take your child or take advantage of you that you're an easy target. And I would never say that out of a place of judgment towards anybody. I say that to keep people safe. And I tell them, instead of doing that, put a first responder autism seatbelt cover on the inside where they can't look into your car and see that. So that way the first responders are like, oh, okay, he's nonverbal and he's autistic if there was ever an accident.
And we've heard stories of we've heard stories of people being curious because of the sticker and they want to see for some reason.
Yeah, it's not coming out of a place of judgment. I can see where that would be helpful, but also at the same time, you also have to be thinking 12 steps ahead. So a couple of tips as we wrap up the episode. So things like making sure you have door locks or door and window alarms, making sure they work, making sure they're placed high enough that your child cannot reach them. And for older kids, we're not really in that boat right now. But I would highly suggest having door window alarms so that way you can hear it and you can know that they have bolted, keeping them on any doors and windows that they like the most. But if you want them on every window and door, go right ahead.
Whatever helps you be able to actually get some rest, really.
Yeah. Then you would be able to know, hey, if I hear this, he's MIA.
Peace of mind, some part of the day.
Yeah, because I mean, our son, he does know how to operate locks now. So we love that. So now we have to revamp our security system for him to make sure he doesn't get out of the house. And then also visual supports are very helpful to have. Stop signs or wait signs. You can easily find those on Amazon. You could, buy those from people like who sell them on Etsy. I've seen them on there. You can get them at Walmart. Just basic things that you can put on places where they like to go the most. Trying to identify the triggers of why they might be eloping. And I know that's hard because sometimes it just happens so fast and you can't, but doing your best to try and keep a small log of it is also incredibly helpful. And then there's also GPS tracking systems. A couple of them, like there's Angel Sense, which can be a watch, or I think it looks kind of like an Apple AirTag that you can like sew into their clothes or but I don't know. They have a watch, and then I think they have it looks like an Apple AirTag, and then of course Apple AirTags. There's also GeoBit and Lifetile. And most of those they do require a subscription, but I would rather be safe than sorry. And
But you can see the perimeter on most of those.
Yeah.
So if they cross that, they're definitely out of the house.
Yeah, we do use one for our son, and it does make the difference, and it does make me feel better. Also, if you want to be one of those parents that use a leashing system when your kid is out, but you still want them to have some semblance of independence, I'm not going to judge you for it because we use it for our own kid. No judgment here. Those things have been lifesavers. And if you want to judge, you can go right ahead. Go right ahead. At least I know that my child is safe and he is with me and not in a dangerous situation. The only other tip that I have is make sure that you are trained in water safety. Like I said, check the water, check pools, check lakes, rivers, creeks, ocean. If you live near one, check those first. It would also be helpful if you took a class and did CPR. We are both certified in CPR and first aid, and that gives me peace of mind in knowing that I can save a life potentially someday if that's needed. And making sure that if you do have a pool, you install a pool fence. That
and a camera if you can.
And a camera if you can. That is incredibly important. Just in general, I'm a big pool safety person too, because that is terrifying and it could literally happen to anyone. But most of the time they are preventable, incidents. And with summer coming up, that is very heavy on my heart. Make sure your kid has a Coast Guard approved life jacket, especially if you're going to be out on the lake or in an ocean. Make sure that they have brightly colored swimwear. That's super important. But yeah, that's. Do you have any other tips or anything you can think of that would help out parents?
I think there's actually a website that actually tells you what is fluorescent clothing, because like some of them you think they are, but they're not whenever they're in the water.
Blues I know, and blacks and grays are not.
Some of the common ones in that. Did you ever see red?
No, I do not.
Because I think whenever it gets wet, like it does not stand out.
You could probably go to a Coast Guard website and see. I'm sure that they have visuals, which is incredibly helpful. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, it seems like it's common knowledge. But it's really odd whenever you look at the comparisons on there. Like you think, oh, that's gonna stand out, and it doesn't.
And it looks different in a pool that's chemically treated versus a lake or an ocean. And like I said, summer's coming up. It is the highest rate of deaths within the year, because this is when people go out and go to the beach and at pool parties or lake days, you know, and we are both very big advocates for water safety. Not just for autistic kids, for anybody in general. So, I hope that some of these tips are helpful to parents. And if you have any questions or anything that you're concerned about regarding elopement, you can always feel free to ask, and I will do my best to answer. Like I said, I will have those links posted on the description in the episode. So that way, if you want to do your own research, you can. Make sure they are credible websites like National Autism Association or the CDC, because sometimes websites over exaggerate statistics.
Mhm.
And that's the best way I can say that.
Yeah.
And, you know, if your child is ever eloped, I feel you. I know how scary it is. And I would not wish that on my worst enemy. Never. And for the families who have lost children, my heart breaks for you. That I cannot even imagine what I can't even imagine it. It's so scary. And I know that I'm not alone in feeling that. So I hope that that was helpful for some parents. So thank you guys for being here. And, you know, thank you for spending a little piece of your day here with us and for being a part of the conversations that matter so deeply to so many families and individuals. Wherever you're listening from, I hope you leave this episode feeling heard and validated and reminded that your experiences matter. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.